Welcome to the Photography Opinion Podcast. We discuss all things photo, video, and camera related. I'm Ben Lucas.
And I'm Stuart Marlantis.
And this is Photo Op.
Welcome to the show. As promised last time, today we're going to talk about backdrops. Sometimes you're taking a photo and you need something behind your subject. Who'da thunk? So we're going to talk about that.
Never, ever. I always get so close that you can never see my subject's hairline, chin, or ears. That every photo. That's it.
The pro move is to shoot them just any old place and then cut them out in Photoshop and place them into whatever location you want, right? That's how you do it.
I hate you. Get out.
Especially against really like detailed textures behind them. So
I've been asked to do that so many times.
Anyway, make it easier on yourself and put together some sort of backdrop solution. And we're going to help you figure out what backdrop you should choose.
We're going to talk backdrops today. It's going to be pros and cons, materials, supports, colors, gels, things we like, things we hate.
Yep.
It'll be a ride.
Yeah, it'll be a good one. So, I guess we should start with materials. There's all sorts of different things that you can make your backdrop out of. What's your favorite backdrop material right off the bat?
Okay, my favorite material is the pop-up. So it is a cloth backdrop that is basically on this like the hampers
like
that collapse that you had in college. Yeah, like a big frisbee. It's kind of like your reflector disc that collapses down, except when it pops up, it turns into a rectangle instead of a circle. I really like those because they generally always retain their shape without having too many wrinkles. Or the wrinkle. Of course you have one on your desk. We made bets about this 2 videos ago. What thing would you have on your desk?
I think I screwed it up last episode. I don't think I had anything to show on my desk, but this is basically what a pop-up is in a very small form. Yep,
and then poof.
Yeah.
There you go. So it is one of those, but like 5 to 7 feet tall. So I use those most because they travel really well without needing to bring like a steamer or something. They're really easy to set up. They're pretty low maintenance in terms of the requirements. There's a lot of different ways to mount them support-wise. And plus, when I was starting out, I bought so many of them because I'm an idiot and I like to buy things.
So did I. It's all good.
Yeah, and the funny thing about it too is I apparently didn't have enough. So the past couple of years I've bought more of them, but they're good. I like them.
For reference, because we actually I don't think said what I did for the audio only listeners is I held up a little like focus / white balance card. Yeah,
it went floosh.
Yeah, got some like ASMR photo gear in there.
Yeah, so no, the pop-ups.
Pop-ups are great, but once they get over a certain size, they get nearly impossible to collapse again. You have to like look up videos like how do I?
I am a master at doing that. I am a master at doing that, but it takes a lot of practice. And the funny thing is, when I started photography and I started buying these pop-ups, I lived in 165 square feet. My bed touched basically the wall on 3 sides, and the head of it touched the foot of my couch, and the foot of it touched my TV. Like it was insanely small. And I would do photo shoots in the hallway, and the hallway, for reference, was maybe about 3 feet by 3 feet. And so I would pop up one of these things and then not have enough room in the hallway to bring. So I'd bring it in and try and collapse it without like taking everything off my desk in the process.
Nice.
It was fun.
So pop-ups, that's your kind of favorite.
That's kind of my go-to.
Yeah.
So the next one would definitely have to go to vinyl. I like it, but I don't own one because they're expensive. So pros and cons of vinyl. The pro is that when paper gets dirty, you cut it off and you throw it away. When vinyl gets dirty, you wipe it down. You can use cleaning solutions. Vinyl is infinitely reusable. However, what is $60 in paper is like $400 in vinyl, which is why I don't have one yet.
Like the cheapest roll of vinyl I've seen is upwards of like $200, and a really nice.
But it's not long enough for me because I want a full sweep.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I'm just saying, like, the cheapest one is like $200, and that's not even close to the equivalent of a paper one that's like $60 in comparison. So yeah, vinyl is really cool. Don't crease it because that could actually ruin it. But
it will never be the same.
Yeah, but they're awesome. Like, if you can afford it, vinyl is really sweet.
If you never travel with it and it is a staple that never leaves your studio, vinyl's amazing.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult to transport without damaging, at least in my experience. So the next one, and the one that whenever I've ever worked in a studio, they always use paper. So I am cheap. So I tried to reuse my paper as often frugal. I try to reuse my paper as much as I possibly can and get as much life of it as possible. And it makes me cry to cut my paper and throw that dirty part away. But that's kind of the nature of it. It's disposable after a while. It just gets so messed up you can't use it. That said, it's real cheap. And if you have paying clients, you put the cost of the paper into the shoot. So let's just say right now, let's say you charge like $100 for a photo shoot, and every client you do screws up, $10 or 10 feet worth of paper. Well, then if a roll of 100 feet is, let's say, just for easy math, this is probably absolutely wrong. If a roll of 100 feet is $100, then your 10 feet is $10. So now your $100 shoot is now $110. See how that's working? So, if you use paper, you have to consider it expendable, and kind of just build that into your costs. But otherwise, it's great. And then with paper, there's so many options with like colors, which I know we'll get to later.
Yep. Yeah, paper's pretty good. If you do buy rolls of paper, store them vertically. I just bought some rolls of paper, and Ben was like, "Hey, make sure you have those vertically stored."
Yeah, so funny story. I have an old roll of blue that was stored horizontal for about 7 years, and it is a wrinkly freaking mess, and it is completely unusable for anything except cutting someone out from it, because it's just it gets wrinkled and warped and destroyed if you store it horizontal, because it's literally just the weight of the paper kind of ovaling it, and then you get all these wrinkly waves in it when you roll it out, and it looks bad.
What else we got? Paper, cloth in pop-ups. You can also buy cloth just as a
just like muslin, cloth backdrop. I have a couple of those. You kind of want to steam those, because if you store them for long periods of time,
there's one behind me.
Yeah. Yep, you've got it behind you. You do want to steam those if you store them for long periods of time, so they're a little bit more high maintenance. That said, as long as you don't actually rip them, like, you can wash them and then put them back out. So muslin is a good investment. I've just, those, like, when you were a kid and you took your school photos, that like muslin whatever scattered backdrop, I don't like that look because it feels too Sears Portrait Studio. So I've never invested in it.
Yeah, a muslin, to me, it's just slightly too annoying to be worth it, in my opinion. Like, I obviously use it for the podcast here. I've got this little setup, which works okay. But you're right, it gets wrinkled really easily. This one is always stretched out, so that helps reduce wrinkles. But like on a normal backdrop stand, they tend to get really wrinkly. It's really hard to get all the wrinkles out, even if you stretch it, even if you put clamps on it. And they're often just slightly too thin. Like, manufacturers of muslin just cheap out all the time, and even if
there's any kind of light source behind it, that it won't actually block it out, and you see the pinpoint of the light coming through it, or whatever the color of the wall is behind it.
And you could make the argument, like, just buy more expensive muslin, but like, I've bought a few different muslin options just hoping that I wouldn't eventually need paper or vinyl, and they've never, even the better ones are still too thin. This is a fairly thick muslin behind me, and actually this is double stacked to kill the light from a window that actually has the blinds closed on it. So like, I have to stack 2 of these and close the window in order to get rid of the light, and it's not a direct like sun facing window even. So it's just they're just too flimsy for me. Up against maybe a wall, it could work out, but yeah, they're kind
Speaking
of a hassle.
Speaking of backdrops, a wall.
Literally a wall.
So there's psych walls, which are amazing, and I wish I had one, but I'm not gonna, and that's a conversation for my therapist. No, but just walls. The other thing that we've done at studios is we had these basically we just built like temporary walls. We had these big like 10-foot by 12-foot-ish walls that on casters that we just kind of slid in or slid out of this. Granted, this was in like a 10,000 square foot studio, so we could house 15 to 20 of these fake walls, and then whenever a client needed one, instead of like building a new one, we would take the one that was either the oldest or the least used and paint over it and do whatever the new client needed for that wall. And we've done this for like this is a fun one. So you know Costco, those little mailers that you get saying this week's sale? Well, what we do is we will shoot a studio set, and the studio set will be a real kitchen with a real countertop and a real backsplash with a fake wall with a window in it. And then behind that wall is another fake wall that has trees and branches and stuff on it. That's how we shot all our stuff for Costco. Boom! Excellent. Insider secret. You're welcome.
Yeah. If you've got the
I'm
space...
pretty sure I was allowed to tell you that.
I mean, you're not under NDA anymore, right?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, if you've got the space and the means to literally just make a physical wall look how you want it to be, like
most
that's
of
like
us
the ultimate.
Cannot afford that, but that is an option.
It's like the only way to really do green screen well, in my opinion. Like there's a bunch of pop-up green screens and cloth and paper and stuff, but the key that you can pull off of an actual cycle green wall is just so good. Like that's the only way to do it.
That's true.
If you're really serious.
And then of course, if we're talking about kind of sets, there's something to be said for just having a natural set where, obviously if you're watching this on YouTube, this ain't pretty behind me. Like I've decided to dispense with the gray blank void and just kind of live in my closet essentially. But I don't have one of those super cool YouTuber sets with all the like accent lights and props and old cameras, and hey, maybe you can help me set up a set with a bunch of props and lights and old cameras. Anyway, so that is a thing you can do too, of you can have a set, and I've seen a lot of studios do that where they kind of have an alcove and every single wall of the alcove has a different set or wall. So this looks like a crazy room as soon as you walk into it, but what it is designed for is you put your subject in the middle and the camera just kind of rotates around them, and now you have 3 different looks.
Yeah, sets are awesome. The set is like the next step up from painting a wall. Like let's build an entire environment, and
just go outside.
Or go outside.
There's that too.
Get your COVID shot and go outside.
I prefer natural sets. Natural sets are great, but if we're talking about studio sets, that is a thing I wanted to throw out there.
Yeah.
Can you think of any other materials? I can't.
Only variations of materials, like you mentioned this earlier, the kind of Sears or like school photo sets where they can have like different textures and splashes of color and like fake brick prints, and there's stuff like that.
I have some sheets of acrylic that I mostly use for like product photos that have those kinds of things on it. It looked really weird to shoot a person on, but when you're trying to stage something to look like a kitchen and you don't have a full kitchen, just having that like tile backsplash kind of like sells the effect,
that can really work. So there's something to be said for those two. But yeah, really you need to be careful how you use them, because you can really make it look very dated like instantaneously.
That is true. All right, I think we've talked about materials for long enough. Let's talk about supports. I have recorded the video, and it will be coming out soon, where I basically just talk about here's all the sports, here's all the pros and cons. So if you want to see that in a video form, you might have to wait a day or two depending on when you listen to this, but go to my YouTube channel, check that out. We will put a link in the description when it goes live. But let's talk about some of them right now.
You might say it's a supportive video, Ben.
So what is your favorite kind of support?
Well, I recently got into auto pulls based off of your recommendation or very pulls, depending on which one you purchased.
Soon.
We'll talk about that soon. That would probably be my favorite, but let's go back a step. And I would say probably C-stands overall. They're just so... you can just do anything with a C-stand, basically.
You really can.
Yeah. It is so... I have used C-stands in so many different situations for so many different uses. I mean, I know we're talking about just supports today, like for backdrops, but C-stands are infinitely useful. They are kind of heavy, but they're built incredibly well, and you can use them for so much different stuff.
But that's also the point, where when you have a really light stand and you put up a big backdrop, a small gust of wind or, push or something on it can knock that down, versus a C-stand ain't going anywhere.
Exactly. Yeah, especially if you had some weight to it. It'll
stick
around.
So I definitely like C-stands. They are my favorite. That said, C-stands can get expensive. I did a video on C-stands, and there is not a lot of difference between kind of like the Impact or newer C-stands versus like the Matthews or Avengers C-stands. That said, I'm very, very picky about my C-stands. I don't know why. I just really am. Just the slightest bit of give or wobble, and I will huck that out a window and be like, no, bad stand.
You're not doing the thing you literally are for.
No,
stay
you
there
have
and don't
one
move.
job. Stop it. Like the Chinese ones, really bad. When I tested 6 all next to each other, 5 of them were like, these are great. I don't know how much they cost, but I would use them. And the Chinese knockoff one was like, oh, no, run. This is, I would not give this away, because I would not inflict that on someone. But so yeah, C-stands can get expensive. Before that, I bought like the thing you can buy on Amazon that for like super cheap. That's just like a stand with a crossbar that has the big tripod legs.
Done the same thing.
Those are a little bit flimsy because the material is usually not like the solid thing that like a C-stand is. If they get dent or bent or whatever, it makes it really hard to collapse and put back up again. The footprint is a lot bigger.
Huge footprint.
So you are getting a budget deal thing, but it's going to be super finicky like a budget deal thing. Pop-ups, we kind of already talked about that in the material section, but pop-ups can be center mounted on a clamp, which is what I do for one of my photo booths. They can be hung between C-stands. They can be hung from a crossbar. They just have Velcro straps that you can tension them or hang them however you want to, or clamp them to the support rod going around it. So those are infinitely useful. We definitely want to talk about auto pulls in a second, but I will throw one more in: V-flats. V-flats not only are good light modifiers, but I have seen them used to great effect for backgrounds for photos. If you need to like put someone in a corner, you just set up a V-flat.
Yeah, exactly. Or like we said before, in the painted wall section, literally a wall. Screw stuff into a wall. I mean, if you've got a wall available and you don't want to paint it, or you don't want to make a set, you can add some sort of support or hook or whatever on a wall, and that can be your support. Lucky you if you're able to do that, by the way. I am jealous. But literally a wall is an option in support as it is in materials.
So let's assume that so in my studio, I had the option to like put a wall, and I was this close to actually doing a cyc wall in there, but I decided I needed the storage more, which took away that wall because I put shelves along it. So that brings us to the auto pull. If you have a floor and a ceiling or a rafter or whatever that you can tension rod basically, if you think about like a tension rod, like a curtain rod, the auto pull is just a vertical version of that. If you can tension rod your auto pulls in there, then you have a stand. You can put hooks on it. You can put clamps on it. You can put those really fancy roller chain things on it for like seamless paper. Possibilities are infinite. It just gives you something to mount all of your stuff to. So if you have a floor and a ceiling, so not vaulted, and less than, I want to say like 20 feet or something, I'm not sure, then those are a great option.
You can buy extensions for auto pulls, but they would start, I feel like you're correct. Like they would start to get a little scary if they got, much more than.
Depends how much weight and how far you boom stuff out, and
yeah. Like you can buy extensions and make them comically long, but I don't know about that.
So I'm gonna cut this one short on auto pulls because I just did a video talking about everything you need to know about auto pulls. So many auto pulls. So for you podcast listeners, I'm sorry, we're done with auto pulls now. But
really
they
good.
are
Watch the video
really
and go buy
good. Here's the 10-second version. They give you 0 footprint, and they let you mount all the stuff that you can with more support than like a C stand or any other kind of stand. So if you can do it and you can swing the price of them, highly recommended.
Good stuff. What do we have next?
I don't know do we have anything else to say about stands like those? There's not too many things to talk about in this video, I don't think.
Yeah, I think that covers pretty much all of the support options. I mean, there are various other random things that you see. I've just looked through B&H or looked through different camera stores, and there are different strange setups. One is behind me, basically just like crossbars
yeah, they're trying to get more inventive, but these are all of the basic ones that you're gonna see over and over again, and they all kind of have pros and cons. Some of those cons might be price, some of those pros might be if you are in a studio versus if you have to travel with it. Don't travel with an auto pull, that's not gonna be fun.
It's a space where people try to innovate, but it never really. Nothing is really like dramatically compelling that's come out of the market recently.
If you had to pick one forever, C-stand and a sandbag.
Yeah, for sure. C-stand is like the best investment of any support in basically any situation. And if you want to get fancy, maybe look at auto pulls. But watch the video.
Watch the video. Okay, but before we go, let's talk about colors, because I actually did get a user question this week. The user question was, I want to buy backdrop colors. What colors should I get? And they started with pink because that's like their branding, and they had this hot pink, backdrop.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think you shouldn't buy colors unless, asterisks on this one, unless it is a color that is so instrumental to like you and your branding and all the things that you're going to use it all the time. Great. If you shoot a ton of video, buy a chroma green or buy a chroma blue. Like, awesome. If your branding is what was it, Gerald Undone does the purple?
Yeah, he does purple.
Cool, buy purple, because like that's your thing, right? But or the other caveat is if a client's paying for it.
Yeah, exactly.
You have a shoot where client needs this turquoise whatever, go buy the turquoise whatever, charge the client. Now you have a roll of seamless paper. I've actually picked up a lot of free paper by productions buying the paper for the client and then being like, we don't want to travel with this. Who wants it? And then I just pick up like half a roll.
Yeah. So you mentioned traveling with the paper rolls. I really wanted to point out really quick that the buying rolls of paper is kind of a hassle. The shipping on them is incredibly high, no matter pretty much where you buy them from online. So although I am certainly very friendly to online gear purchases, for paper, look for your local camera store. In the Seattle area, we happen to have a pretty good one that carries lots and lots of paper. Pretty easy to go and get it, Glazers. But wherever you are, look for a local camera store, or maybe not a camera store, but find whoever sells rolls of seamless paper in your area and buy from them. You will actually save a lot of money buying in person, because you're not shipping it for, sometimes like half the cost of the material. Like for a $60 roll of seamless, you're going to pay at least $30 in shipping. So you can save a ton, literally like if you're buying a couple rolls, you're literally saving like a roll of paper worth of money. by picking up in person. So definitely go that direction if you're going to buy some paper in the future.
Absolutely. Local is king for some purchases that are just too ridiculously big. I know Amazon's thing is like, oh, free shipping. And there's a lot of other places that I buy from, like B&H, like, oh, free shipping. Except when it comes to paper.
Yep.
So if you do live in the Seattle area, like the both of us do, Glazers is great. Hashtag not sponsored. We just buy stuff from them. So, yep, there you go.
But what colors are those, or is that paper, Ben?
What colors are those? That's right. So, user question: what color should you buy? I go off on tangents sometimes. I don't know if you've ever noticed or listened to this podcast or met me. No, so I actually think you shouldn't get colors except for all the caveats that I said earlier, because here's what you can do. You get a white one so that you can go pure white. You get a black one so you can go pure black, and you get a light neutral gray one. And if you want a color, then you get lights and gels, and now you have an infinite supply of all the colors of the rainbows that you can shine onto that backdrop. That said, it might not look exactly the same as buying the roll of that color of paper, but you're going to save so much space and money storing tiny little 12-inch gel grids versus I don't know how many. Like, just for triple click, I have 6 to 8 different kinds of backdrop colors. Could you imagine me setting up a different roll of paper every time someone like, oh, can I get a shot on the green one? Yeah, give me a second. Like, that's just not feasible versus just sliding a gel out of my barn door and sliding a new one in. Now the backdrop is a different color.
Yeah.
So,
and you can get away with this with video as well. Like, you can do, if you have you'll need more output, certainly. But if you've got some decently powerful RGB either panels or monolights, you can totally do a gray backdrop and throw color on it and have it look good. It might just be difficult to get the kind of output you need, but it's totally
that's
possible.
True. So I would say kind of like top priorities are, a very first one you should get is either gray or white, depending on kind of the thing you shoot. Because if you light a white, it's white. If you don't light a white, it's gray. Versus black, it's very hard to turn black into anything else. Black is going to stay black for the most part. But if you want something to be completely black in the background, gray, you don't light it, it turns black. Versus you do light it, you can blow it out and you can try and get it to white, but you might have a cleaner white with less kind of blowout and blooming, with the highlights kind of wrapping around your subject. If you had a white backdrop instead of trying to blow out a gray one. So that's kind of the spectrum of white, gray, black, and kind of what do you shoot most? Those are kind of the ones that you should buy. When it comes to colors, the reason why I say shoot colors on a gray is if you shoot them on a black, it's still going to kind of look black. You're not getting that much out of it. If you shoot it on a white, it's going to look very Easter pastel. It's not going to be that dark, rich saturation that you would get from putting a sweep of seamless paper. You shoot on a gray, now you're talking. You can actually get some of those deep, rich colors, and the more light output that you have, the less saturation you have, so you'll have to play with kind of how many lights and spreads and power output to get the exact kind of color you want. So it might be a little bit more finicky, but again, it's a hell of a lot cheaper than buying paper. So if you don't have the storage space or budget, that's my recommendation. Otherwise, go nuts. Go, to your local camera shop. Come home with 10 rolls of paper.
Gray, black, white, chroma green or blue if you're doing that stuff, or whatever is key to your brand or your client is.
Like a friend of mine did a project where he bought yellow because he was shooting hundreds of portraits and they all had to have a yellow backdrop. Of obviously just buy the paper for that one. So there we go. We have talked so much about backdrops. I did not know there was that much to talk about. I'm honestly surprised.
Yeah, for all this discussion over something that most people will totally not notice,
never think about,
or ignore.
Yeah. Any kind of parting thoughts or tips on backdrops?
Yeah. Watch the autopull video and buy autopulls.
You are in love with autopulls now, aren't you?
I am a convert. You're like check out autopulls, dude. They're really cool. And I was like, okay.
They're so good. They are so good. I will say if you don't have a studio space and you just like shoot in your living room or something, and you're a renter, not an owner, autopulls are amazing. Autopulls. Autopulls are varipulls, depending on the brand you get, are incredible because they don't damage any of your stuff. And they have less footprint. So if you have a small like studio apartment that you're renting, you can set it up literally just an inch or two off the wall. You have zero footprint that you would have with like a C-stand or a tripod, and you're not damaging anything. So no, they're incredible. A little bit pricey, but in my opinion, if
close
that's
to C-stands,
the thing that you need, they're worth it.
Pretty close to C-stands. Good C-stands. So yeah.
Good C-stands.
Yeah. Caveat, good C-stands. But it's worth checking out. Again, watch the video and buy auto pulls or varipulls or whatever.
Hashtag not sponsored.
And gray paper or vinyl if you're rich. Anyway, thank you for joining
YouTuber money
on this backdrop journey. Hopefully that helped inform and reform your thinking around your backdrop selection or your backdrop build out. And it'll help give you something for people to ignore for many, many projects to come. Throw us a rating, and we will see you next time. Thanks for joining us.
If you have questions or ideas for future episodes, you can email us at hello@photo-op.show.
Watch us on Ben's YouTube channel at NomCreative.
As in Om Nom Nom.
Share this with a friend, and you can listen to Photo Op anywhere podcasts are sold.
Or download it. 'Cause it's free.